This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea.
The war of words with North Korea, the Iran deal, a lot was discussed at the United Nations this week, and from the healthcare to Russia, a lot went on in Washington too. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the week in politics in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. And we begin tonight with an update on the Amber Alert we all got on our phones for 4 Bradenton children. They have been found safe in Alabama. 2 guests at a Hampton Inn recognized the children in the lobby and called police. Their mother is now in jail.
The local authorities got there in a hurry and figured out that, yes, these are the children that the Amber Alert was issued for.
Their mother, Haima Gadan, is being held in Alabama on a charge of aggravated battery and interference with child custody. She doesn't have legal custody of her kids. The children are in temporary care in Alabama until they can be returned to Manatee County. A former Sarasota County Sheriff's deputy is facing yet another criminal charge. Prosecutors are charging Deputy Frank Bybee with kidnapping. He is already facing charges including attempted murder and theft. Bybee was arrested in January after a 79-year-old woman claimed he stole thousands of dollars and tried to kill her. He goes on trial next week. A suspect is behind bars in connection to a bank robbery earlier this month. Gerald Baker is charged with armed robbery at the Bank of the Ozarks in Bradenton. The Manatee Sheriff's Office says Baker walked into the bank and handed a note to the teller demanding money and implied he was armed. He took an undisclosed amount of cash and fled. Baker is also a suspect in 2 other robberies in Manatee County. 2 weeks after Hurricane Irma, the city of Northport is looking back at what it did right and what needs to be improved. Public safety officials credit social media with being a great tool for getting in touch with residents before, during, and after the storm. But there was a great deal of flooding, and the fire chief says the city should look into how that could be avoided in the future.
We've been improving the system for years, and we actually handled a lot more capacity than we ever did before, but still had flooding. When you get 8 inches in a 12-hour period, there's not too much you can do.
The city's drainage system is still flooded. 2 nursing home industry groups claim it is unrealistic to add air conditioning generators to nursing homes and assisted living facilities throughout the state within 60 days. Governor Rick Scott ordered the addition of generators within 60 days after residents of a Broward County nursing home died following Hurricane Irma. Scott's emergency rule gives nursing homes and assisted living facilities 45 days to submit plans that include acquiring generators to ensure temperatures could be maintained at 80 degrees or cooler for 96 hours after losing electricity.
When you deal with people's lives, I don't think there should be any wiggle room. We have to be practical about it and pragmatic about it. Hurricane season, we're right at the peak of it now. Hopefully we don't get another storm. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that these individuals, these seniors and these frail individuals are taken care of.
We'll be working with the locals to make sure that this is done with permits and it's done in the proper way, and that these devices are installed safely and so that they can be used safely. We certainly don't want to trade one danger for another.
So far, 10 nursing home residents at the Rehabilitation Center at Hollywood Hills have died from complications brought on by high temperatures from the lack of power and air conditioning. We are just 1 day away from the opening ceremony for the World Rowing Championships in Sarasota. 1,700 athletes from around the world are wrapping up their final practices, and local businesses are finishing up last-minute preps as thousands of visitors make their way to the Suncoast.
It's a lot of coffee that we're providing. You know, we're talking about 1,200 to 2,000 cups a day at least.
And to prepare for that big boost, Kawa has additional staff from its St. Petersburg and Tampa locations. Catch a race, go to a museum, the Ringling Historic Spanish Point and South Florida Museums and Bishop Planetarium are participating in Museum Day Live tomorrow. It's an annual event where museums are open for free. All you have to do is log into smithsonianmag.com and download your tickets. And one day, Bob, your set will be in the Museum of Meteorological Excellence.
Yes, well, I can only hope, right? I tell you what, thanks, Alan. You know, it's Football Friday night, right? And you would expect some nice weather. Well, it's not happening. Big storms are firing up again. Seems like every Football Friday night, there's some sort of weather-related event that brings things to a halt a little bit. We have some lightning strikes, at least in Sarasota County right now, near Lakewood Ranch, stretching southward along I-75. They're starting to make a break and break down that sea breeze toward the coast. Most of the action is east of I-75. However, you can see that outflow boundary just kind of racing right through and really firing the storms up into Sarasota County right there. You see that little line moving through, that thin line moving through the county and then out into the Gulf. Well, that's what's really enhanced these storms this afternoon. And you can see the rainfall rate pretty high, 2.21 inches an hour, and lightning down near Clark Road and Fruitville. This is looking at Laurel Oak as well as into Heritage Oaks, and looks like near Bee Ridge Road extension there's some pretty heavy rainfall, some lightning strikes there. Near Inglewood, light rain. Northport, the storms have lessened up there somewhat, but expect some activity to start to develop west of I-75 as some of the outflow from this particular storm works its way off to the west. So the forecast this evening calling for scattered showers and storms. Right now, the heat index is not really a big factor. The temperature at 86 degrees and winds out of the north-northeast at 10. We'll have a complete update on Maria as it pulls away from the islands now. The winds are still very strong. Hurricane warnings have now expired for the islands. They still have some tropical storm force winds, but looks like this could be done with the land areas, although there's a chance it may head back toward the northeast United States later on in the forecast. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
We hope not.
Right.
Thanks, Bob. And still to come, from a pretty darn interesting week following President Trump at the United Nations to John McCain's stuffing attempts to repeal Obamacare again. The story in a moment.
It's going to be a little bit time consuming and probably a bit tedious, but worlds better than it could have been.
We can rebuild. There's no problem about that. You know, you can put a new roof on a mobile home, you know, or new windows in there. But as long as you have your life, you know, that's all that matters.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-628-1251, 800-628-1251.
Consumer Cellular makes it easy to stay in touch with family and stay within our budget.
Now our cell phone bill is only a fraction of what it used to be.
Our average customers get everything they need for about $25 a month, and plans start at only $10 a month with no contracts.
Consumer Cellular has a great choice of phones. Check out my new one.
I picked this simple phone.
I use my son's old smartphone. Kept my number, too.
Consumer Cellular has been an approved AARP provider since 2008, and members get exclusive discounts.
It's a good thing Consumer Cellular is always there, because sometimes I need a little help.
Sometimes.
We're proud to have received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service among non-contract wireless providers.
Over the years, we've seen a lot of change.
We actually use change. Luckily, there are some things we can still afford.
Like Consumer Cellular.
Stop paying too much for wireless service. Switch to Consumer Cellular. And with our 30-day risk-free guarantee, it's easy. Call 1-800-920-3084. Go online or visit a Target store today.
The ABC7 First Alert Hurricane Guide. Download yours today.
John McCain says he will vote no on the GOP health care plan, which is likely to kill Republican Senate efforts to repeal and replace Obamacare a second time. The bill has not been reviewed by the bipartisan Congressional Budget Office, and McCain says that means too many questions are left unanswered. CNN's Ryan Nobles has more.
Tonight, GOP hopes for a last-ditch effort to repeal and replace Obamacare are fading fast. Senator John McCain, one of the key swing votes, announced he would not support the Graham-Cassidy plan, a huge setback for Republicans who need 50 votes to pass the bill by September 30th. In a statement released Friday afternoon, McCain wrote, quote, "I cannot, in good conscience, vote for the Graham-Cassidy proposal. I believe we could do better together, Republicans and Democrats, and have not yet really tried." McCain has been upset with the health care reform process from the beginning. He foreshadowed today's move in July during his dramatic return to the Senate floor after being diagnosed with brain cancer. He warned his colleagues then that any attempt to reform health care outside the traditional process of hearings, debate, and committee votes would fail.
Let's trust each other. Let's return to regular order. We've been spinning our wheels on too many important issues because we keep trying to find a way to win without help from across the aisle.
He subsequently voted no on the GOP's skinny repeal, ultimately killing the bill. Today's move, coupled with Senator Rand Paul's already announced opposition, means Republicans cannot afford to lose any more votes. A seemingly impossible task. Roughly a dozen GOP senators are undecided, and two in particular, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine, have voiced their issues with the bill.
There are many concerns that I have about the Graham-Cassidy proposal. They include the fact that they make fundamental changes in the Medicaid program for the first time in more than 50 years.
As a result, McCain's decision was viewed by Obamacare supporters as the final blow to GOP hopes of a partisan repeal and replacement of the Affordable Care Act. Late-night host Jimmy Kimmel, who's been very critical of the Graham-Cassidy plan, tweeted his support of McCain, writing, quote, "Thank you, Senator John McCain, for being a hero again and again and now again." McCain's decision is a blow to the Trump White House, which had put its weight behind the Graham-Cassidy plan. Earlier in the day, the president warned that those who voted against the plan would face political peril. But at this stage in McCain's career and life, he chose his instincts over political calculations, despite the fact that one of his closest friends, Lindsey Graham, co-authored the bill. In his statement, McCain made it clear it was not an easy decision. "I take no pleasure in announcing my opposition. Far from it," McCain wrote. "The bill's authors are my dear friends, and I think the world of them. I know they are acting consistently with their beliefs and sense of what is best for the country. So am I."
Coming up, a debate at the trapezoid worthy of the war of words between President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
This is an important announcement. If you're between 50 and 85 and worried about your loved ones, you can still get affordable life insurance for peace of mind.
My life insurance coverage is guaranteed, and I was not required to get a medical exam.
I had high blood pressure and diabetes, and I got my coverage with one telephone call. No exam necessary.
I'm a smoker, and I wanted to take care of my family. I called to get my life insurance and my affairs in order. I wanted to do the right thing.
Call Final Expense No Exam Insurance. Your rates are guaranteed and will never increase.
I called and learned that this insurance cannot be canceled even if you get sick or gain weight.
And there are no restrictions on how my beneficiaries use the money when I'm gone.
Approval was easy and the price was right. I wanted to do this for my children.
Call 800-738-9812. 800-738-9812.
It's Willamania at the Players Center as the Will Rogers Follies takes the stage September 27th. Part homespun humor and part Ziegfeld Follies, this toe-tapping Tony Award musical is the start of our wild Broadway series. So call the Players at 365-2494 or visit us at theplayers.org. You need to catch Willamania.
Welcome back. Here's a multiple choice question. Who does President Trump dislike more? For a second time, Senator John McCain has apparently nixed the effort to repeal Obamacare. Get this. McCain says there should be hearings and a debate and a bipartisan effort. Go figure. North Korean Supreme whatever Kim Jong-un, who called the president a deranged dotard. Now, in case you're interested, the definition of dotard is an old person who has become weak or senile. Or how about killing a couple of birds with one tweet? The president tweeting today, the Russia hoax continues. What about the totally biased and dishonest media coverage in favor of crooked Hillary? Joining us for more is New College political science professor Frank Alcock, Rod Thompson of the Sarasota Republican Club, and Jacob Ogles, the political editor of SRQ magazine. Rod, let me start with you. Putting aside what you think of the Republican plan right now and Obamacare, what do you think about Senator McCain's reasons for voting no, or saying he's going to vote no, in terms of regular order, having hearings, debate, a budget score?
I mean, that sounds wonderful. That sounds just really nice. But that's not really the way things have been generally going in Washington, particularly on this issue.
Isn't that part of the problem?
It is. But it's both sides. You can't have just one side choosing to say, okay, we're going to be bipartisan. Obamacare was passed 100% partisan vote. There wasn't one Republican that voted for Obamacare. And they just had a little bit larger numbers. So, you know, I don't know if McCain's really been paying attention, but there isn't any extension of the hand by Democrats on the other side. The only way they're willing to work with Republicans is if Republicans basically don't do anything of substance to Obamacare at all. Well, that's not actually reaching across the aisle. So McCain's reasoning, I think, is faulty. I think the hearings and all that sounds great, but that wouldn't change anything because the votes are going to be the votes still. The problem that I have, the concern that I have, is that I've been a big defender of John McCain as a person, as a war hero, as an incredible leader in Vietnam, staying at the Hanoi Hilton when he could have left. I mean, there's a lot of great things to say about him. He's a gosh-awful bad Republican senator, and I think he's got a personal grudge with Trump, and it's understandable. Trump said mean things about him, and it looks like every chance he gets, he tries to torpedo the president, and I'm sorry that that may end up being part of his legacy because he's better than that.
Well, Frank, do you think that this is more of an issue of, you know, if you recall during the campaign, President Trump, candidate Trump, said that McCain was not a hero just because he was shot down over Vietnam. Do you believe that's McCain's reasoning, or that he has a legitimate and heartfelt?
My honest view, I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think the reasons that McCain voted against this bill are the exact reasons that he stated in his statement. I think he's getting towards the end of his career. I mean, he is staring mortality in the brain cancer, and I think he's just voting his conscience, and he thinks that that bill is just not in the best interest of the country.
Jacob, this week, as we saw in the story, a big factor, at least in the public debate this week, was Jimmy Kimmel. Right. I'm wondering, A, if you believe that had any kind of impact in terms of where the votes stand in the Senate, but furthermore, do you believe it has any impact on people who are watching this debate with us right now?
Well, it was a little interesting to see senators actually interfacing with Jimmy Kimmel on Twitter, but no, I don't think that ultimately had anything to do with where the votes fell. It did have something to do with the public perception, and ultimately, I think that's kind of what's been problematic about the healthcare debate, is everything is about the political image and everything is about how it's being sold to the public. I think that starts with constantly pushing for repeal rather than trying to sell some type of reform. If you actually have problems with healthcare, look for reform. But reducing it to repeal and turning it into this talk show fight, it ends up making it all about who's winning the issue rather than what's being accomplished.
Right, I know you want to respond to that. I also want to point out that according to a new Washington Post ABC News poll, Americans prefer Obamacare to the latest GOP plan by a margin of 56-33.
I would dare those Americans to describe the Graham-Cassidy bill and tell me what's in it. You know, whenever the status quo is threatened, Americans seem to shift a little bit more in favor. I disagree with Jacob a little bit in that this does not have anything to do with repealing Obamacare. This is tweaking Obamacare. This is totally unsatisfactory for any conservative that wanted to see Obamacare repealed.
All right, we are going to take a pause and we're going to keep talking about health care in a moment. We're just getting warmed up and we'll have much more right after we check the first alert weather. Stay with us.
This is important news for women who were administered chemotherapy intravenously for breast cancer and then suffered permanent hair loss. The chemotherapy drug Taxotere has been linked to permanent alopecia or permanent hair loss. Some women administered the breast cancer chemotherapy drug Taxotere have suffered from permanent hair loss on scalp, eyebrows, and eyelashes. The FDA has urged doctors and the manufacturer to warn women administered Taxotere of the risk of permanent hair loss. If you or a loved one were administered chemotherapy intravenously for breast cancer and suffered permanent hair loss, you may have a right to a cash award and medical expenses. If you suffered permanent hair loss after chemotherapy for breast cancer, call the law offices of Davis & Crump at the number below right now to find out if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call the law offices of Davis & Crump right now. Our first consultation is free, and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call now. Operators are standing by.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Everything all right? Actually, you know how Tom had knee surgery? Sure. We found out Brad's been taking his painkillers. And it turns out he's been doing it for a while.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Our conversation continues right after we get a check on the first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Well, we just heard some rumble of thunder here at the ABC7 studios right in downtown Sarasota. You can see from the Lakewood Ranch webcam the last few frames, things really start to get a little bit ominous looking there. We had some showers already moving through Lakewood Ranch and some big storms producing some heavy rainfall, additional moisture in the atmosphere. Similar conditions anticipated on tomorrow afternoon and evening as well. And you can see that line now producing some lightning strikes and rain falling all the way over now to near Siesta Key, near Inglewood, getting some rainfall. Venice has had some showers. Northport, it's moving away from you, but we still have some light rain behind that. This is the area of concern near Lakewood Ranch, though, and south thereof near Fruitville and I-75 all the way down to Bee Ridge. So I mentioned Northport, you're looking a little bit better now, but we had some rain earlier that has moved on through. Now Inglewood, Northport up to, again, the heaviest rainfall approaching Siesta Key and near downtown Sarasota. The lightning fairly intense along Fruitville and I-75 and then Lakewood Ranch, especially to the south thereof, but this is kind of gradually working in a northwesterly to westerly direction. So expect some moderate to heavy rainfall, tough driving conditions along I-75 all the way down to Clark Road. In Manatee County, not much going on there now, but there are some outflow boundaries which will be moving on in here. I suspect some of this will work its way in that direction. We have one lone shower right there near State Road 64 near Palmasola. Dry air is to the northwest of us right now, but there's plenty of moisture in between the dry air that you see as a result of Maria moving to the north now. There's some dry air over the Bahamas. That's going to stay there too, it looks like. Over the weekend, we'll see that moisture availability there anyway, so a good chance for some showers and storms both on Saturday and Sunday. 82 right now. The heat index is at 86. It's not a big factor. Northeast winds are at 12. Forecast tomorrow, isolated shower possible late morning, early afternoon, isolated, but more numerous as we move into the latter half of the day. In the afternoon and evening, those showers will be a little bit stronger and more concentrated. Well, a lot more concentrated around the center of this system right here. Maria continues to push away from the Turks and Caicos right now. The hurricane-force winds are no longer having an impact on any land areas at this time because they're kind of centered right around here within 50 miles of the center. However, there are still warnings out for the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas. There's the forecast path and track. It's very narrow there for the first couple of days, and then it really starts to spread out because of the fact that there's several different models suggesting that it may kind of sit around here a while. You can see that big spread all the way from the Carolina coast well east thereof, and it could cause some impacts over the northeast. We'll have to wait and see. Right now it would be Wednesday and Thursday of next week if it were to be moving off toward the northeast. I mentioned those warnings are still up. Tropical storm warnings in effect for the Turks and Caicos. Here's the forecast models, and they're showing that movement off to the north, and then a lot of them take it off to the northeast. That's the cluster right there, but there's a couple of reliable ones, the GFS in particular, that is keeping it around here after day 5 and day 6. So a lot remains to be seen with this storm before it's all said and done. And Jose's still out there kind of dancing around. It's no longer tropical in nature, but it is still hanging there and will aid some energy and could actually draw Maria up here a little closer to the coast. So that's going to be interesting to watch over the upcoming week, next week. For us, no worries of tropical concerns for us next week. East winds turn to the northeast at 10 to 15 knots. A bit breezy out there. A light chop turns to a moderate chop. The water temperature now at 85 degrees. And the UV index will be at 10 in the morning. It will go down throughout the afternoon as clouds increase. Sunset just right now. Mostly cloudy, showers and storms around, 75 for a low. And then tomorrow, expect a good deal for afternoon and evening storms. Some of those could be some heavy rainmakers at times. The extended forecast calling for a good chance on Sunday, tapering off. Some drier air slips in on Monday and sticks around through Friday of next week. Alan will be back with his guests right after this. Stick around.
It's Lincoln's summer sales event here at Alex Karras Lincoln. Drive a brand new 2017 Lincoln MKX Sport Utility for $349 per month, or Lincoln's flagship, the 2017 Continental, for $449 per month. We have a great selection of certified pre-owned Lincolns. These vehicles have warranties up to 100,000 miles and come with complimentary roadside assistance. Alex Karras Lincoln, affordable luxury, winner of the prestigious 2015 President's Award, serving Florida's Sun Coast since 1978. We're located 2 miles north of the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport on US 41.
This is an important medical announcement. Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to uncontrollable bleeding and even death. If you've been prescribed one of these drugs and have experienced these dangerous side effects, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Studies show that Pradaxa can cause more heart attacks than warfarin, and other countries have already issued safety warnings against this drug. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. The call is confidential. There's no cost, and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to Pradaxa victims, and thousands of Xarelto victims are filing their legal cases. Call the Drug Watch hotline. If you or a loved one used Xarelto or Pradaxa and experienced uncontrollable bleeding, brain hemorrhage, or even death, you must call now.
Call 800-793-6055. 800-793-6055.
You studied hard, went to college, and achieved your dream, but it turned into a financial nightmare. If you have federal student loans and you'd like to reduce your payments, get more time, or have your loans completely eliminated, then we have good news. With one call to Student Loan Relief Services, you can find support and guidance. We've already helped thousands of people, and we can help you too. If you have $10,000 or more in federal student loans, you can qualify for payment extensions, payment reductions, or you may qualify to have your federal student loan completely forgiven. Call Student Loan Relief Services now to find out about your options. Take control of your finances and get out from under this burden. One of our student loan experts has the answers to your questions and great solutions to ease your financial burden. We're here for you. Call Student Loan Relief Services now.
Call 800-759-0203, 800-759-0203.
Healthcare, North Korea, and turning up the heat on the Russia investigation. Joining us for more is New College political science professor Frank Alcock, Rod Thompson of the Sarasota Republican Club, and Jacob Ogles, political editor of SRQ magazine. Jacob, I'm wondering if you have a sense of how folks here on the Suncoast feel about this healthcare debate. Rod's not really interested in the polls in terms of reflecting where public opinion is, but there was another Kaiser Family Foundation tracking poll that came out showing that 69% of Americans think it's important for Congress to pass legislation to stabilize Obamacare. Only 47% think it's important to repeal and replace it.
Yeah, I think that people who are in the state of Florida care deeply about health care, but we're not really at a spot where we're talking about the specific impacts it's going to have on their lives yet. As long as we're talking about block grants, and as long as we're still talking broadly about the impacts of Obamacare, you're not going to see something that necessarily fires people up over their particular situation in life. You know, they're still probably driven more by their partisan leanings than they are by a discussion of policy.
Well, Rod, that brings us back to you, because some of the debate this week, at least among Democrats, is that even if you offer block grants to the states, you are cutting the amount of dollars for Medicaid and Medicare, and they raise the specter of your parents or your grandparents being kicked out of their nursing homes.
Yeah, right. Just like, you know, grandma was being pushed off the cliff in a wheelchair and all. I mean, these are famous scare tactics when it comes to health care. The problem is a couple-fold here. Number one is we never actually have an honest conversation about the economics of healthcare and the reality of what we're doing and what it's costing. We're on an unaffordable trajectory. That's part of the reason for trying to block grant it to the states, looking for more efficiencies by the states operating these programs, and then cutting it. Because we can't just keep saying, this is a good idea, we should do this, and throw money at it, and this one is, and this one is. And I would like to say that the economics and the reality of pre-existing conditions never gets an honest conversation.
Well, that's another conversation. But the question I had for you is, given what you're saying now, why, after 7 years of Obamacare, didn't the Republicans come into this process with a good plan that was explained? They seem to be making up on the fly here.
Oh, absolutely. So there's a couple problems there. Number one is they were totally unprepared for Trump to win. They ran consistent. This has been one of my big gripes, you may remember, with the Republican Party nationwide on this. They ran consistently about repeal Obamacare, and then at least 7 senators in the last election cycle that were elected by promising to repeal Obamacare have been voting consistently against the repeal Obamacare proposals that have been out there. So, I mean, I was all for primarying these people because I'm sick of that sort of action.
It's easier to repeal than it is to replace, and it's easier to run on slogans than the devil is in the details. This is a big idea that the Republicans are pushing for the block grants. By definition, less money. There will be some cost savings. In terms of how much people pay, I think it's a mixed bag. There are going to be some winners and losers across different states. Will do well. Texas, California will get crushed under something like this. And then within states, there are going to be a number of people that'll be paying a lot more for their health care, or that might lose coverage. There might be some people whose costs go down. I think it's the most vulnerable people that'll be hurt, though, under this.
Turning to another topic, North Korea. North Korea is at least alluding to the possibility of blowing off a hydrogen bomb out in the Pacific Ocean, which is something that has not been done for many years after the U.S. and the Soviet Union had their test ban treaty. You had the leader of whatever calling Kim calling the president a deranged dotard which we looked it up, a older senile individual. The president saying at the UN today or earlier this week that if we don't solve this, then there's a possibility that we will destroy North Korea. Frank, this is obviously a different way of dealing with North Korea as we've seen for the last couple of decades. What do you make of this?
It looks like, to myself, and I think a lot of people around the world, it's a chest-thumping insult fest with two maniacal leaders that have access to nuclear weapons, and they're starting to look and sound a lot like each other, and that's very scary.
Do you take offense to that?
Maniacal for Trump? Yeah, I take offense at that. Yeah, I mean, he's equating, if you're going to equate Kim Jong-un to Donald Trump, then you're not being reasonable about it at all.
That's what it looks like to the world.
Well, it may look like, well, it doesn't look like it to the whole world. It looks like it to a portion of the world. The problem here is that in North Korea, we've had multiple administrations by multiple parties that have kicked the can down the road. Now we have an increasingly heavily nuclearized, unstable country threatening us and all. If they do, I think his statement at the UN was that if they were to fire off, if they were to attack the U.S. or an ally, or if they were to threaten, which I think a missile with a hydrogen bomb into the ocean might be that, then we would destroy them. That is a restatement of U.S. policy for multiple administrations now regarding North Korea. So that's not crazy. When he says rocket man, that's just stupid Trump stuff. I wish he wouldn't do that because rhetoric does matter. But as far as the substance of what he's talking about there, it is completely consistent.
Jacob, some people have pointed out, and I'll get your response to that in a second, that at the same time, the president is alluding to the possibility of withdrawing from the Iranian nuclear agreement. And it raises the question, in terms of North Korea, that if the United States is willing to make a deal on nuclear weapons with one country and then later withdraw from it, what's the message to North Korea?
Well, we also have an administration right now that walked in talking about making deals, and so far has only made headlines by nixing deals. We talk about the Paris Accords, we talk about what happened with Iran. So I think that there's a lingering effect in terms of that. Now that said, I think in the UN, Nikki Haley has done a job that's been pretty widely praised. So I don't think that we're rudderless when it comes to the UN. But when a speech from a world leader comes in that involves name-calling and seems to almost dismiss the idea of diplomacy, I think that's where things get problematic. Now, that said, we'll see what actually happens inside the UN with some of the players who actually sit down at the tables and make deals rather than just make posturing speeches.
Frank, do you have any real concern that this current state is any different in reality than it has been under President Obama, Bush, Clinton, before that, in terms of the danger of hostilities with North Korea?
I've not seen this type of escalation. I mean, Trump is just a very different politician, a very different type of president. So he's sort of unapologetically, he's, convention and diplomatic history is out the window. I think it continues to play well with his base. He got elected. When we get up to the international level, though, I don't think he has a really good handle of leverage, and I don't see the rhetoric and the posture increasing our leverage in any of these situations. And that's very troubling. I don't know how what he said at the United Nations gets us anywhere or makes anything better.
Japan and Australia both hailed his statements regarding North Korea at the United Nations. Those are two countries that are much closer to North Korea.
We have less than 2 minutes. I want to get to one more area, and that is the Russia investigation. You see the special prosecutor going after the president's former campaign chair hard. Even this week, they're talking about all the financial connections and dealings. Reportedly, Paul Manafort has been told by prosecutors he's going to be indicted. Now you have the special prosecutor asking for White House records on the firing of James Comey and Michael Flynn. I'm wondering what you all think of that.
Well, I think Manafort has looked like he was going to be indicted from minute one. The thing is, Trump can distance himself from Manafort fairly easily by saying he fired Manafort, and he did so because of the deep connections with Russia that were coming out in the press at the time. Where this goes from here, it's going to be curious whether it actually wraps members of Trump's administration, not just his campaign team.
Facebook.
Facebook?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, that was the other issue, that Facebook is now handing over to the special prosecutor some 1,000 ads placed by Russian entities, and that's where the dollars to donuts come in if they can find out whether the Russians or Russian entities did that with any kind of direction from U.S. sources.
Oh, right. So I don't know. I don't know what we'll find. Manafort strikes me as somebody that's kind of been a little bit dirty all along, and as soon as Trump figured that out, he fired him. My concern with the special prosecutor is that, number one, it's looking more and more like a fishing expedition that has expanded far beyond looking for Russian collusion. Number two, more and more people on my side of the worldview are not trusting it because of all of the Clinton and Obama attorneys that are as part of his team.
Frank, I'll give you a chance to respond to that, but we have to take a quick break first. Final thoughts when we return.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-685-6422, 800-685-6422.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big, or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $10 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand, with no surprises, and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received J.D. Power Awards for highest customer service. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and start your 30-day risk-free trial today. Call 1-800-468-1930. Go online or visit a Target store today.
Watch Your Suncoast News at 6 on your streaming device for a chance to win a $50 Visa. It's easy. Just watch weekdays at 6 for the word of the week. Then enter the word at mysuncoast.com for your shot at a $50 Visa. We'll pick the winner each week. Good luck. When severe weather strikes, trust ABC7 First Alert Weather. We're here for you.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Frank, I want to start with you to respond to what Rod was saying, that Special Prosecutor Mueller's staff is really a bunch of Obama, Clinton people, and that most Republicans think that that's what it is. It's a totally politicized investigation.
I just want the puzzle to be, I want to know what happened. And so I don't think these leaks are helping the Mueller team. Certainly the Trump administration hates the leaks, but they're damaging to Trump in many respects, but they might be damaging to the investigation. And so whether or not he's going beyond the bounds of what he's supposed to be looking at with respect to his mandate to investigate Russian meddling, I'm not going to be able to know until I see the final report. Before then, I'm just not going to draw any.
Rod, I want to ask you about that, because very often if you hear other political pundits on TV, they're saying, well, this investigation has been underway for more than a year now. There has been no evidence of collusion. But as somebody who's covered criminal prosecutions, I know that criminal prosecutions can take an awful long time before you get to the real answer.
Correct. And if this was your normal local criminal prosecution, you would say, we don't know anything yet. I mean, the media, the rest of us wouldn't know anything yet. But this has been, leaks hardly says it, this has been burst valves, of information. So much has been leaked so constantly. My suspicion is that there really probably isn't that much there that can be actually tied to Trump. Whether you can tie some things to his team like Flynn and Manafort, that's possible. But to Trump himself seems probably unlikely. What it is going to do, like Frank was saying, is I think it hurts both the credibility of the investigation and it hurts the ability of the Trump administration to carry out its presidential duties.
Jacob, I want to give you the last word in terms of, at least on the Suncoast, is this opinion falling mostly in terms of partisan views or
Yeah, I think everything about Trump pretty much does. And it's frustrating. I don't think you get a lot of objective eyes on things. And right now, people are in the defense mode for whichever side they are sympathetic to. You have a lot of people who are growing it in their head, the Mueller investigation, to be the ultimate end of the Trump administration, which is probably wild. And you also have people digging in on the right saying, you know, this is a witch hunt and where's it going to go? Probably not very tethered to reality in either case.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. But before we go, some thoughts on last night's show. We discussed the World Rowing Championships, which begin at Nathan Benderson Park tomorrow. The event has attracted athletes from around 70 countries and is being held in the United States for the first time in over 20 years. The goal is to bring $25 million into the area from the event. Hurricane Irma was a bump in the road when preparing, but it looks like everything is ready to go for the championships. Patricia says, I am honored to have all of them here. Bringing countries together for an event such as this takes the heat off this crazy world we live in. Grant says, on the other hand, have Irma damage? No way I could afford this. Even if I wanted to go, seems hard sell after this bad storm. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions. They're on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. New College Political Science Professor Frank Alcock, Rod Thompson of the Sarasota Republican Club, and Jacob Ogles, the political editor of SRQ magazine. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather. Plus, what is being said between President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un now? We'll tell you after the break.
Is your old garage door stuck or broken? Would a new one give you a lift? Let Precision Door Overhead Garage Door Service of Sarasota come to the rescue with prompt and affordable repair service. Replacement doors come with an array of styles and colors, and they are rated to meet and exceed Florida standards. From estimates to installation, your satisfaction is our priority. If you're not 100% satisfied with any product, service, or installation, we will make it right, because Precision Door Service is a name you can trust.
Glasses and contacts. You need them to see, but they put such a strain on your life, you miss precious moments. Due to new advances in vision improvement technology, LASIK is now affordable for almost everyone, with procedures starting as low as $299 per eye and over 1 million procedures performed by our trusted independent surgeons. LASIK surgery is a sensible, safe, and affordable solution to improve your vision. Our simple 3-step process begins with a free evaluation, followed by an extensive preoperative exam to determine if you're a candidate for LASIK eye surgery. Depending on the results of your evaluation and eye exam, you and your surgeon will choose the LASIK option that works best for you. So call now to talk to a LASIK Vision Institute counselor and schedule your free evaluation. That's a $100 value, free. Call the LASIK Vision Institute for your free evaluation and enjoy more of your life.
Call 1-800-813-0109. 1-800-813-0109.
That is a pretty good breakfast. You're not even eating.
Not hungry.
No? Why not? What's up?
Kath and I knew that Jenny had been partying a bit. Found out she tried heroin.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
As expected, big storms firing up along the sea breeze front as the East Coast breeze made it all the way over, and these storms are producing some incredible lightning and some very heavy rainfall. Rainfall rates up to 2 to 3 inches an hour right now, especially in downtown Sarasota, stretching up toward Lakewood Ranch, the Meadows, all the way over to Palm Air and near the airport. It's lessening up now in Northport, Port Charlotte, and Punta Gorda. But near Venice, at least South Venice, some rainfall there, fairly heavy right now. And you can see that slowly working off to the west and about 5 miles an hour. Notice this lightning strike right there outside of the rain area. So a bolt from the blue or out ahead of the storm. be careful. There's a lot of lightning headed in that direction toward northwest Bradenton. Lightning strikes just within the past 10 minutes, 102 lightning strikes. 44 of those have been positive, meaning more amperage associated with those. In Sarasota, stretching down towards Siesta Key, there's Bee Ridge 41. Our I-75, here's 41, covered in heavy rainfall all the way up to 301. And near Lakewood Ranch, some of the games rained out right now. Football Friday night getting another dose of some heavy rainfall as a result of the moisture availability and just the fact that we warmed up today to 90 degrees and the collision of the sea breeze. And you can see these storms are working their way off basically and building to the northwest here. So the rain expected to continue here in Sarasota west of I-75 for at least the next half hour. And then we could see a little bit change in that after, say, 9:30 or so. The story is, though, the moisture is still going to be around tomorrow, so we're expecting more storms in the afternoon and evening for us tomorrow. Currently, we have a heavy thunderstorm in progress at the airport. It's 81. The pressure still fairly low at 29.86 inches. The forecast for Saturday does call for an isolated storm at 30%, say anywhere from 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning. Clouds will be increasing throughout the afternoon with a good deal of showers and thunderstorms throughout the late day, and some of those could bring some locally heavy rainfall like we're seeing right now, maybe even a little more so. Well, as Maria spreads and moves away from the islands here, things are starting to improve somewhat. The storm itself is now not all that organized, but still a major hurricane at this point. It's moving away toward the north, and the visible satellite imagery has since moved on, but the winds at 125, the gusts up to 155. It's going to move to the north and then eventually to the northeast, but it does a little jog back to the north there after day 3. And then after that, there's a big spread in the models all the way over from the Carolina coast, the Outer Banks, well east of that. Several hundred miles, and it looks as though it's still not over yet with the United States. Even if it's here, it's going to create some very heavy surf along the northeast coast all the way to the mid-Atlantic coast. So it'll be dangerous situations there early next week. And the forecast models are in great agreement for the next 2 days, but after that, there's some differences, as you see, but the majority of them do take it off to the northeast in time. Still a lot of uncertainty. Elsewhere in the tropics, all is quiet for now, with the exception of Jose, which is no longer a tropical storm. It's just an area of low pressure now for the most part. Post-tropical storm Jose was still hanging around off the coast, but it's pretty quiet elsewhere for the time being. Here's the forecast for the boaters tomorrow. Looks good in the morning, increasing clouds and storms in the afternoon. Seas running 2 feet with a moderate chop out there. A water temperature now at 85 degrees, and tides upcoming. Low tide will be at 9:05 and a high at 2:12 in the morning. Tonight, mostly cloudy, showers and thunderstorms through, as I said, around 9:30. And then low temperature 75. Tomorrow, the rain chance increasing to 60% for late day showers and storms, some of those heavy at times. And the extended forecast, still a good bet for storms on Sunday, tapering off somewhat to start the work week with high temperatures right around average, upper 80s through the work week next week. Alan will be back with primetime headlines right after this.
Are you Goodwill?
Yes, because when I donate
or shop at Goodwill,
I'm creating a job.
I am Goodwill, yeah.
Attention! Royal Seas Cruises has just announced their deal of the day, a $99 Caribbean cruise for 2 people. This amazing cruise deal to the Bahamas is only available to the first 500 callers who register in your area today. So get ready to write down this number and act fast. We know that the best type of traveler is a repeat guest, so we're offering this $99 Caribbean cruise to prove it. That's $99 per couple, including your stateroom, all your delicious meals, full spa, live entertainment, 3 kids clubs, and more. Come see why we were voted one of the top 10 best overall cruises by Cruise Critic. We're so sure you'll enjoy yourself and become a repeat customer that you're getting this deal of the day for the unbelievable low price of just $99 per couple. But you've got to act fast. Pick up the phone and be one of the first 500 callers to take the Caribbean cruise of a lifetime for just $99 per couple. Call right now or log on to royalcruisenow.com.
Call 800-906-0489.
I witnessed him have 2 heart attacks in ICU. He went through seizures.
We'd much rather have Aaron like this than dead. A lot of parents don't have that luxury.
He can't talk. He can't walk. This is a condition Aaron will live with for the rest of his life because he abused prescription pills.
Mind your meds. Learn more from the partnership
for drug-free kids.
Watch Your Suncoast News at 6 on your streaming device for a chance to win a $50 Visa. It's easy. Just watch weekdays at 6 for the word of the week. Then enter the word at mysuncoast.com for your shot at a $50 Visa. We'll pick the winner each week. Good luck.
Checking primetime headlines, deranged madman. War of words between President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un after President Trump's speech to the UN General Assembly sparked the latest escalation of insults between the two leaders. But will the rising rhetoric lead to something more grave? Karen Kaifa has the latest.
After Kim Jong-un called him mentally deranged, President Trump fired back via Twitter, calling the North Korean leader a madman who doesn't mind starving or killing his people, and warning he will be tested like never before. The tweet, part of escalating rhetoric between Trump and the rogue leader. Before the UN General Assembly Tuesday, Trump said the U.S. would, quote, totally destroy North Korea if forced to defend itself or allies. Kim responded with a statement in which he said Trump would pay dearly. Some have questioned Trump's engagement in the war of words. The State Department says it's a message to North Korea from the world.
What the president is doing is making clear our displeasure, and it's not just the United States' displeasure, it's the entire world with these illegal nuclear and ballistic missile tests.
But with more heated words, more concerns about consequences. North Korea's foreign minister warned it may test a hydrogen bomb over the Pacific after 2 missile tests over Japan in recent weeks. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson told ABC News Friday a diplomatic resolution is still most preferable, but all options are open.
We will continue our efforts in the diplomatic arena, but all of our military options, as the president has said, is on the table. And once we can assess the nature of this threat, the president will make a decision regarding the appropriate actions.
The White House says President Trump and South Korean President Moon Jae-in agreed to strengthen combined defenses in the region. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Efforts continue in central Mexico to find survivors and clean up debris left behind by this week's 7.1 earthquake. In town after town, rescue crews from around the world continue the search for survivors. After the earthquake, several buildings collapsed. Almost 50 people died in one region. The death toll following Tuesday's 7.1 magnitude earthquake now stands at 297 people. Hurricane Maria's impact on Puerto Rico is still being calculated. 2 days after the hurricane made landfall, residents are still dealing with the aftermath, flooded streets and power outages. 6 fatalities related to Hurricane Maria so far. 3 people died in landslides, 2 people died as a result of flooding. 1 person died after being struck by a panel. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us and have a great weekend.